They say family is everything. But what happens when the people closest to you keep rewriting the rules? When your husband's past crashes the celebration meant for your son, and secrets come out at the worst possible moment? This is a story about love, betrayal, and the messy reality behind the perfect family photo. Let me tell you what happened. I, 27 male, and my husband, 37 male, have been married for 3 years, dating for six. He has an ex-wife, 37 female, which he divorced a year before we met. We have a son, 7 male, who was adopted after we got married, and who I love as my own child because he is. I know my husband, Peter, fake name, is bisexual. I have no problem with it, and I had no problem with his ex-wife, Allison, also fake name. I did have a problem with his family as they're a bit homophobic and are always telling Peter he should get back together with Allison. Well, 2 weeks ago we were at his family's town because it was my son, Jack's, fake name, birthday, and we wanted to spend it as family. My mother-in-law decided it would be a good idea to invite Allison, so she arrived in the middle of the party. I didn't want to ruin Jack's birthday, so I stayed quiet. I spent all my time with Jack, playing with him and his cousins at his request. When it was time to cut the cake, I noticed Allison and Peter weren't there, so I went inside and looked for them around the house. I found them in Peter's old bedroom taking their clothes off. I stood there in shock for a moment, but then I left and went back to celebrating Jack's birthday. Part of me wanted to scream and cry, but I also was in shock, and I refused to make Jack's birthday about me. We cut the cake and opened the presents. People were already leaving when Allison and Peter came back. Peter took me aside and started saying that I shouldn't have cut the cake without him present, and it was disrespectful. I stared at him and just said, "I'm sorry, I just thought you'd be too busy getting into your ex-wife's pants." He got quiet, so I took Jack and left the house to go back to the hotel. Once I put Jack in bed and made sure he was asleep, I locked myself in the bathroom and broke down. I called a friend and he tried his best to console me. I only calmed down in the morning when I took Jack for breakfast because I didn't want him to see me like that. I'm now watching him play in the park, and I don't want him to suffer. I don't want him to have a broken family. I don't want him to know that relationships aren't a happy ever after. Peter has been calling and texting, apologizing for everything, and I'm tempted to forgive him. I'm tempted to just have my family back. And all my friends are saying that it was just a mistake, that he was vulnerable and Allison is his ex-wife. Peter and Allison didn't notice me when I saw them. There was music very loud downstairs and they weren't facing the door. I didn't stop them because I was in shock. I just stood there for a moment and I heard my son, so I unconsciously focused on him. I was pretty much in autopilot. Peter didn't come to the hotel with me because I changed to a different one. He did try to follow me, but I took a taxi and left. As far as I know, he's staying with his parents, and Allison left. We met when I was 20 and he was 30. We started as friends and we ended up dating. Yes, we're both men, and no, I didn't feel manipulated or groomed by him. Those were the most asked things, and I did answer some comments, not all. Now, on to the update. I did as some of you said and took some tests to discard any STIs or STDs. The results are coming back in a few days, and I will take another one in 3 weeks to be sure. My son is having a sleepover with a friend, and I decided to speak with my husband. He came by our house. After a few minutes, I texted him. He asked about Jack, and I told him where he was. Then we sat on the couch and started talking. I started crying after a few minutes, and he followed after. I asked some simple questions. When? Why? How many times? Among others, and this is what I could figure out by all the things he said. It happened for the first time when he visited his parents alone 2 years ago. They invited her, they both got drunk. He was feeling lonely as I had been. More attention to Jack since we adopted him. And they slept together. Nothing happened again until our son's birthday party. He said his mother pressured him a bit, and he caved in. I don't believe he did it for that reason, but I don't know. He said he doesn't love her, and I believe him, but it doesn't negate the fact of what he did. After talking for a while, I told him that I wanted a divorce. He started sobbing and begging for another chance, but I told him that I can't give him another chance because I wouldn't be able to trust him again. and I don't want that in a relationship. He kept crying and begging for another 30 minutes until I told him that we have to think about Jack and his well being, that we could stay friends Diaz and co parent him. He got mad, really mad. He started yelling that it was all Jack's fault, that we shouldn't have adopted him, that he's the one who's getting between us. I was crying and really scared. I had never seen him this angry. He hit the table and stormed out of the house. I called the house where Jack is staying at and told them if Peter shows up there, they can't open the door. After the little episode, I was scared that Peter would try to hurt Jack. I called my friend again, Thomas, and told him everything that happened. He came by and is staying with me until I'm better. Right now, I'm trying to figure out what to do and how to go on with the divorce. My husband has been showing up at my work, following me and calling me from burner phones. I was afraid he'd go after Jack like many of you said he would, but he didn't. He said a lot of stuff, but I'll try to write the important things. He said that he missed when we were just us, that I stopped paying attention to him when we adopted that Jack, that I wasn't his anymore. He said that he missed how dependent I was on him. I was very insecure when we met, but I started working on my issues when we adopted Jack because I didn't want to be a bad example for him. When we got married, I used to get sick all the time. I was weak and tired, so he would take care of me 24/7. The doctors couldn't tell what was wrong with me, and I didn't get better until a bit after we adopted Jack. I guess that dependence, it's what he missed. Yesterday, he followed me to work and started screaming that I was his and that we made vows to stay together. We had to call security, and he waited for me next to my car. I panicked and took a taxi home. He keeps messaging me and showing up to our house. I took a few weeks off work to be with Jack, although he's taking this better than me. I made an appointment with a therapist for him, and when the divorce is finalized, I'll go to one myself. This has been a really difficult time, but I'm almost divorced. I have primary custody of Jack, and I've got a restriction order against Peter and Allison. I'll try to be quick, but a lot happened. So after I made the post, Peter kept calling and stalking me. I didn't know what to do until I started packing Peter's stuff and I found a box of pictures of me before we met. Like 3 or 4 years before we met, while he was still married to Allison. I never knew why they got divorced. He just said it was too painful to talk about, so I never asked. But I swallowed my anger and sent Allison a message to ask her about the pictures, and she told me that they got divorced because she saw him stalking my Facebook several times and found the same box I did. He called it an innocent crush and curiosity, but she thought he was cheating on her, and they got divorced. A year later, he met me, but Allison always thought that I was the side piece. I read a few comments saying that I maybe was sick because he was making me sick. I don't know if that's possible. I don't really know. I mean, the illness were bad enough to make me stay in bed, like having a bad cold, but I don't know. I stopped digging. After I found the pictures, I confronted Peter without Jack in the house, and he seemed, I don't know, proud? He kept smiling and saying that all he did was for us, that it was love at first sight, and we were destined. He was just making sure it happened. Apparently, we had met before we became friends. I remember meeting him at a party through some friends, but we met before, as teenagers. He and I lived in close by towns, and my school made some trips to the towns nearby, and we met on one of those trips. We were something like friends, but only for a summer because he went to college and I soon forgot about him. But he found my Facebook, and the story continued. I was horrified, to say the least. He tried to console me and tell me that it was fine, that he did it out of love, and that if only we hadn't adopted Jack, everything would be fine. I was bawling my eyes out. My entire marriage was a lie. He said that he only slept with Allison because he knew that it would get my attention, and that we didn't have to go through with the divorce. That I know he loves me, and that's it. He promised to be a better dad for Jack if I made more time for him. He told me to quit my job because he earned enough to take care of all of us, and that would give me more time with him. I was in shock, and then he hugged, calming me down. I admit that for a moment I allowed him to hold me. I allowed myself to consider his proposal, but I kept thinking about his lies. It wasn't about the cheating. It was the stalking, the lies, the obsession. It creeped me out, so I tried to pull away and tell him I'd go through with the divorce. He refused. He hugged me tighter and screamed that I needed him, that he could protect me, he could take care of me, he could save me, that I was his husband and only his. I was terrified. I slapped him and pulled away, yelling at him to get out of my house. He didn't. He just kept screaming and holding on to me until a neighbor heard the commotion and called the police. I filed a restriction order and been taking care of Jack since. During the divorce proceedings, Peter asked for 50-50 custody, which surprised me because in all this time, he hasn't cared about seeing Jack. But I later found out that it was only because he would get to see me and talk to me regularly. He's been contesting every single thing about the divorce, trying to make it last longer than it has, and it's been working. He offered to give me child support even though we have 50-50 custody. He allowed me to keep the house and other stuff. So that's what's been going on in my life. The only happy thing that happened was Halloween. Jack insisted on dressing up as Spider-Man, and me dressing up as Tony Stark, so we did. And I took him trick-or-treating. It was the most adorable sight ever. And I knew I made the right choice with him and Peter. So, we're finishing with the divorce proceedings, but Peter's attitude has given a 180, and I don't know if I'm crazy or what. The last time I posted here, Peter was basically saying that our son was the reason for our divorce, and only wanted custody of him to see me. Now he's being Father of the Year. A friend of mine, Dean, fake name, is handling the drops and pickups of Jack so that I don't see Peter. At first he was mad and called me because he thought he and I were dating. Then he didn't care. Now I thought that he would treat Jack badly, and I kept a very close on him. Asked him questions about his father, how everything was going, etc. Jack told me that he's been acting like the perfect dad. He's nice. He plays with him, helps him, and is completely different from before. I have talked to Peter and he told me he was going to therapy, which I'm happy for, and he has messaged me, apologized, and told me that we should try couples therapy. I declined and he hasn't asked again, but he wants us to meet up at his house tomorrow to discuss everything that happened. He said it was part of his therapy. I haven't gone to therapy. I can't afford it right now, but Jack is. I can't say I don't miss Peter because he was a great partner and husband before everything went down, but I don't trust him after all that happened. So I don't know what to say to him tomorrow or how to express how I feel about it. Is it wrong to miss him? I mean, this whole thing happened because he slept with someone else, and I know that he hasn't seen Allison and won't be seeing her again because she's also done. Should I just move past it? Jack is also saying that he misses the three of us together. He's cried to me about it more times than I can count and asks why I can't forgive his dad. What the hell am I supposed to do? To feel? I should have explained her better, but my restriction order was a temporal one, only for 30 days. Peter was a very good husband. I read that he was abusive all throughout our relationship. He wasn't. And he was a good dad to Jack. Everything went to hell when I caught him cheating. What Jack was saying wasn't told by Peter. I talked to him and I made sure. He just has been missing our life before. Peter would never touch Jack like some of you suggested. My case may make it seem like he could, but he never even touched me or groomed me. I did talk to Jack just to make sure, and he reassured me nothing happened. Now on to the update. I did meet with Peter. Most of you told me not to go to his apartment, so I told him to meet at a park, take a walk or something. When I saw him, he was different. He looked very depressed and he hugged me when he saw me. He wouldn't stop apologizing for what happened. We started talking and walking. He didn't justify what he said or did, but he did say he regrets it. He said that he misses me and misses being together. I asked about Allison and he told me that he cut her and his parents out, which I believe he did. And then I asked about what he said about Jack. He basically said that he resented Jack for a long time because my attention wasn't on him anymore, and it was selfish. But he was too used to be the center of my world, so when it suddenly changed, he couldn't take it. He told me he loves Jack, but that he sustains that if giving him up meant to have me back, he would do it in a heartbeat. We talked for hours while Jack was with my friend. I cried a lot. There were things I decided not to ask, like if he was drugging me like some of you said, because I honestly don't want to know. We have been texting these past days, mostly about Jack, but I'm considering family therapy, mostly to help Jack cope with everything. Every relationship has its quirks, compromises, and boundaries. Things we accept and things we quietly wrestle with. But what happens when a hobby you thought was harmless suddenly feels like a secret world your partner is emotionally slipping into without you? I've been with my girlfriend for almost 4 years. She's amazing, kind, funny, and everything I ever wanted. She's also a huge D&D fan, which I never really got into. But lately, something about her game night started to feel off, and what I discovered left me questioning everything. So here's the story about love, trust, and whether some lines should never be crossed, even in a game. I, 27 meters, have been going out with my girlfriend, 25 feet, for almost 4 years, and we've been living together for a few months. She's funny and wonderful and kind and honestly pretty much everything I ever wanted in a girl. She's also a bit of a D&D type nerd, which I don't think is a bad thing. It's good that she has her own friends and hobbies. She tried getting me into it, but I don't really get it. She tried teaching me about D&D, but there were just too many weird rules and dice, and I just didn't see the fun in it. We tried playing Baldur's Gate 3 together thinking it would be easier to get into for me and for me to experience her world in a way, but I got really bored really fast, and at that point it was just better to let her do her own thing. We've got plenty of other things we do together, and as I said, it's not a big deal for her to have hobbies that don't include me. And she does love her hobbies. She gets very excited about her weekly games and sometimes tells me about the epic adventures they go on, which admittedly sounds pretty fun secondhand, but is not really for me. We live in a two-bedroom apartment, so we have a bedroom and a home office we share, where our laptops are. Her D&D games are online, and usually happen in the evening, so I just hang out in the living room or go out when she plays to not intrude. But a few weeks ago, I noticed that she locked the door when she played. I thought it was a little weird because why would you lock the door to play D&D? And it didn't sit right with me, so I did what I now think might have been a very sad and pathetic, but I truly didn't know what else to do. The last few weeks when she had her game, I sat out in the hall by the door and listened. She uses headphones so I could only really hear her side of the game. And at first it was just some stuff about rolling dice, joking around with her friends, and spells doing whatever, but I kept at it. I sat there for 4 hours last week and over 2 hours this week, but eventually I heard it. She was talking about with another person, and it was really romantic. It was tender and very emotional. She'd legit said something like, "You know I love you, so I want to help you save your family," or something like that, in a clearly romantic way. It went on like that, like a clear emotional discussion with a romantic partner that lasted a solid 15 minutes. Then it went back to other stuff, but by that point it didn't matter. I was really upset and went back to the living room, and when she came out after the session, I confronted her. I told her I heard her talking and told some guy how much she loved him and how he was the only one who ever got through to her or something, so she would do anything for him. She said I was taking it out of context and that it was just pretending and playing a character, but I told her it didn't matter. This wasn't some video game where her character was speaking written lines to another character with written lines who wasn't real. She herself was saying sweet, loving, romantic things to another real person. And it hurts to hear. It feels like cheating. She said it wasn't cheating and her character wasn't her. She just did it for the drama and thought being romantically invested made her character better. She also said that me sitting outside to listen in on her game was a violation of her privacy and showed that I didn't trust her, which was why she felt like she needed to lock the door in the first place. I apologized for that, but at the same time, I said that I being wrong to eavesdrop doesn't justify what she did, to which she said that she didn't do anything wrong. It was just what the game was. And it was just a game, but that made me feel even worse. Maybe I'm being whiny or misreading it, but she is the first person I was ever really vulnerable with like that. And the way she spoke to me when she told me how much she loved me, it was just so similar to the way she spoke as her character that it made me uncomfortable. It made me feel like something that was only mine and only for me was just given to someone else for a game. It felt like it cheapened it. Was she cheating on me? Was she truly feeling it for that other person? I don't know what exactly it is that's bothering me because technically she's not wrong. But I don't care if she's technically not cheating. I just feel like there are certain sides of my GF that should be reserved only for me, shouldn't there? I couldn't really verbalize it to her, and after a bunch of arguing back and forth with just went to bed. For the past few days, we've been in this weird state of limbo where we're going on like nothing happened, but also there's clear tension. Today I couldn't take it anymore, and I said that we need to talk about it. I said that I understand her hobbies are important to her, but I am her boyfriend, and there should be certain things that are just for me. I can't go on knowing that she's talking like that to some other guy. So I told her that I support her going on with the games, but I asked that she no longer lock the door and no longer do whatever romantic stuff she does in game. She said I didn't mind when she talked to me at length about her romance with that Asterian guy in Baldur's Gate. I told her again that that is not the same. I don't mind her playing at romance with a bunch of pixels and being moved by fiction, but that her D&D game isn't just fiction. It's her telling those things to an actual person, and that bothers me, so I want her to stop. She said I was being possessive and controlling, and that I can't tell her not to have hobbies or how to behave. I told her that's true, but if she doesn't understand how I feel about this, we might not have a future together. She got angry and said, I'm clearly not in a state to be having this discussion, and we'll talk again when I've calmed down. And went to school. She's getting her MA, but in the time since I've been the opposite of calming down, I just get more upset the more I think about it. Clearly, me being upset should at least make her consider stopping, even if she isn't actually cheating outright. Shouldn't my feelings matter on this issue? But also, maybe I'm not being reasonable? Maybe I am overreacting? I thought I maybe was actually overreacting and I really did fuck up. Especially helpful, I thought, was a comment someone made about asking her about maybe keeping the door unlocked and being allowed to listen in on session to get context and learn to accept her hobby and let it still enjoy it without me spiraling. So when she came home from school, I made apology dinner, homemade pizza from scratch, her fave, and we sat down to talk. She started by demanding an apology because whatever else I had to say, eavesdropping and not trusting, she were huge fuck ups on my part. I mentioned and apologized immediately because that was shitty behavior on my part, no question. That helped her be more open to hear me out. So I said, more calmly and tactfully, that it bothers me that she is simulating romantic love with a person I don't know, in context I don't understand. I said that I can and do apologize for my actions, but I can't change how I feel, and that also needs to be discussed. So she asked what I had in mind. I told her that I think trust should go both ways, so I trust that the game is just a game, and it doesn't mean anything is good and good. But in return, I'd like for her to keep the door unlocked and let me sit in on a few sessions. I promised not to be disruptive, not to overreact or interrupt the game, and to bring up any issues I had privately with her after the game was over. She seemed relieved because she was worried I'd demand she drop the game or break up with her, and said she personally didn't mind, but she needed to bring it up with her group, which I thought was very reasonable. The rest of the evening, though, she was constantly on her phone, constantly getting Discord notifications, and seemed more and more upset. This lasted for literally hours, well into the night, past when I was asleep. I asked if everything was wrong, and she said maybe, but not to wait up, and she promised to tell me everything in the morning. I didn't get much sleep, but I also didn't want to pry too much, having just promised not to. So, come morning, when I asked what happened, since she clearly didn't get much sleep and was clearly nervous, she said she brought it up with the group, and reactions were mixed. I'm going to give these people fake names to keep track. So when she brought it up, everyone seemed okay with me listening in except Joe. Joe is the guy whose character she had the romance with. Joe said in their group chat that he wouldn't feel safe acting, they call it role-playing, I guess, when there was a stranger in chat and wouldn't participate in any game I was presented for. This obviously made my girlfriend respond that seeing the relationship between their characters was the whole point of me listening in. To which he said, I'm being unreasonable and violating his boundaries by making unreasonable demands. This was already pretty bad in my eyes, but then she told me about the private messages. After the group exchange, she received 3 messages. One was from Joe. Joe wrote a long, really long message about how much he cared about her, and how much it hurt him to see her dim her light to appease a controlling, abusive boyfriend who stifled her creativity, and how she should be with someone who appreciates her, let her be herself and share her interests, and that he was available if she wanted to talk. He finished with a paragraph about how women like her always go for selfish assholes and don't appreciate the wonderful guys all around them. How he felt such a connection with her through their characters, and how could she ignore it? I truly couldn't believe I was seeing one of these in the wild. I don't usually get secondhand embarrassment, but that shit was so cringe I almost died. Like, I truly laughed. I couldn't really be angry, that shit was just so sad. She also received messages from Jenny, another player, who said Joe seemed way too invested in the romance for her taste, and she thought those segments were taking up a lot of game time, which she thought was better used elsewhere. She never said anything because she thought my girlfriend was really into it, but now that it became an issue, she thought she should. She also mentioned she found Joe creepy, which I personally appreciated. I don't know any of these people IRL because it's an online group, but I certainly think Jenny might be my new best friend. Finally, there was a message from Mitch, the guy running the game, who said Joe reached out to him demanding I not be allowed to, and this is a quote, violate the intimacy of the group. And he should talk to my girlfriend too to get her to drop me listening in, and possibly drop me altogether. I don't even know how or why Mitch would even attempt to do that. All this results in them canceling the next game as they work it out. My girlfriend didn't respond to Joe yet, but at least she seems relieved that I'm taking this well. I told her of course I am. I'm not going to be upset over some guy being into her. She's wonderful. Of course guys are going to be into her wherever she goes. The issue I was worried about was that she was into him back. And these messages convinced me that that's clearly not the case, which seems to have made her feel a lot better. We talked a bit more, and she now seems to agree that locking the door, in context, might have seemed suspicious, and that going forward our ground rule should be that character dynamics that make her feel like she should lock the door might be the exact dynamics she should make me aware of, while I promise to trust her to tell me these things and not to eavesdrop anymore, and approach her openly about listening in on sessions. Also, the romance with Joe's character isn't going to continue, but seeing how she feels about Joe now, I think I do trust her to do character romance going forward, just to not hide it from me and be selective with who she does it with. I don't know how the Joe situation is going to be handled within the group, but I guess that's up to them, since playing with him is obviously going to be very awkward for her. Guess since she doesn't intend to keep up the romance, it doesn't really matter. Small edit since the situation basically resolved itself now. Joe didn't like being left on reading, so he wrote my GF a very rude message about how, I kid you not, she was going to die alone with cats because her asshole boyfriend is going to leave her when she lost her looks. He literally never saw her in person, to be clear. Uncovering my secret plan, I guess. So she just blocked him and sent a screenshot to Mitch. Joe isn't going to be part of the group anymore. GF apologized for not recognizing how absolutely unhinged the guy was. We reaffirmed that any in-game interaction she isn't comfortable having in front of me is probably one she shouldn't be having.